I am so glad you decided to join us today. This is the Words for Life podcast, where we have candid conversations about successes, challenges, and the benefits of strengthening your relationship with God. This will positively impact your life. Welcome to another Words for Life discussion. I'm your host, Terrence Farrell, aka T. Farrell, and today got a special guest with me, Eva Forde, who's not only a social worker, but also a performance coach for social workers. So I think this interview or this episode is going to be very interesting, very interesting. But before we get started, I wanted to share a lesson that I'm in the midst of learning. I'm still grappling with this one. So I'm listening to, somebody put me onto a speaker, a Pastor Mike. Oh man, I had the name on my tip of my tongue. Anyway, Pastor Mike, it's going to be in the description, the links and everything. But he's doing a series called Paper Chaser. And I wrote down a couple of notes from I think it was the first episode, the first sermon of the series. It says, chase your purpose, not the paper. If you chase your purpose, provision will chase you. God will provide for those who are following him for the right reasons. God doesn't have a problem with paper. He's concerned about priority. Now, I jot down those notes, but the whole thing was because for a while I've been as a paper chaser. You know, if it's gonna make more money, let's do that. My purpose. I'm not gonna go against what God said, but it's like, okay, that's gonna make more money than that, so that must be a wiser decision. But if you chase your purpose, if you find out what it is God's calling you to do, it might not look like, well, that's the thing that's gonna bring me all this money. But if you follow that, God will provide. He'll provide. And it's not just money. He'll provide the resources to do the things that you want to do and more, way beyond what you could imagine, hope for, or think. But that stuck with me about chasing your purpose and not the paper. I know a lot of paper chasers. And if we can change our perspective, I really think we can do what we're called to do and stop stressing about what's going to make us money, and do I have enough of this, and I got to do this so I can make more money, and put all that extra stress on you. But just wanted to drop that in your spirit. I wanted to have you, let you chew on that. Check Michael Todd. Last name is Todd. It just came to me. Michael Todd. I'll put the link there in the description, but the series, it blessed me. It might not bless everybody. You might not, feel his delivery, but it works for me. All right, so back to the podcast. Got my special guest, Eva Forde. Now, just in case you go, Eva Forde, I have no idea who that is. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. Just took a couple of snippets out of here. Eva has a master's in social work from Columbia University. In Jamaica, she became the head of the social work program at Northern Caribbean University. She has worked with elderly, hospice, abused women and children, families in crisis, people living with HIV, and survivors of torture. Eva is the outgoing president of Jamaica Association of Social Workers, JASW. Eva is also the founder of Rich Social Worker. I'm going to let her dig into that a little bit more. We're going to dig into that. And she's also an author of How Not to Practice Social Work, saving good people from bad practice one step at a time. And also the Rich Social Workers Manifesto. It's a manifesto, but it's pretty good. It's time to claim your fortune. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, help me welcome Eva Forde. Eva, how you doing?
Woo! Crowd goes wild.
Yes, and the crowd goes wild.
Crowd goes wild. Right, one person. I remember when, before I even finished school, hearing people introduce and this long list, Dr. So-and-so and has done this and this, I'm like, wow, they must be super important. And then when you get there, right, at least for me, I'm like, okay, it's just a journey, right? It's just a journey. But when you put it on paper, it really sounds fantastical.
Sounds amazing.
It sounds amazing. It's like, wow. but going, living through all of that, it's just they're jobs. I've had jobs, and I'm not, not to diminish any of those jobs, but I also would speak to the younger version of myself or anyone who might be listening that if that sounds impressive, there's I haven't done anything that you can't do as well, right? If it sounds impressive, if you're not impressed, then this isn't for you. That message is not for you. But the younger version of myself would have been, like, wow, awestruck and intimidated, and it's just a journey. But I'm grateful for the journey. Absolutely.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a journey that you have to stick to, because if you give up, then all of these things aren't listed. And there's a lot of people who get discouraged and give up. They go, yeah, you know what? Let me do something else. I can't.
Well, here's the thing, because I think a lot of people chase after the accolades and the letters behind the name and the high titles and positions. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that wasn't my intention. I got accepted to Columbia University, not knowing it was an Ivy League school. I just wanted to get out of Alabama, which is where I was at first. And I was looking on the internet for schools, social work schools in the North. And that came up. So I applied. And it wasn't until I got in that I was like, oh, wait, this is a thing. And then I was living in New York. It was cold. I went to visit my grandma in Jamaica, and it was warm. And then I had to go back to New York. And my friend Derek
Kwashi?
Derek Kwashi.
Nice.
Because I came back and I was cussing, and he was there. I was like, why is it so cold in New York? I was just in Jamaica. And he said, why don't you move there? And I was like, oh, yeah, I could. So I moved to Jamaica because my grandma was there. And they happened to be starting a social work program and had no social workers. So it was in the town I was in, I had the training, and they didn't have a program coordinator. So I became the coordinator. So again, like things like that. Oh, she was the coordinator. She went to Columbia. She was the president of the association. I was the president of the association because nobody wanted the job. And I kind of put myself in because I'm coming from an environment where if you see a need, you fit in there. You don't sit back and say, well, why isn't anybody doing anything? You say, oh, can I be of service? And I came in from America with my mentality of how can I be of service to a culture that largely was like, well, what are you guys doing? And so as I served and the president was leaving, there was an election coming up. They were like, okay, Eva, you're up for president. We're going to have an election and you are the clear. And I was like, no, I don't want this. They're like, yep, but you're serving. And overwhelmingly, I was voted in. So I didn't search for these things, but partly I would say, my environment, I don't know that I could have been the head of the National Association of Social Workers in the US or in Canada or in a different country. I don't know that I could have been the head of a social work program for a large university in another context. You know what I mean? So on paper, it sounds amazing, but I was just back to that quote that you gave at the beginning, right? When you follow the passion, right?
Yes.
The paper follows. I was just following. So I am an ENFP for any of you that follow Myers-Briggs personality test.
What is that? Please explain it.
So ENFP, so there's 16 personality types according to this particular personality test, Myers-Briggs. And my personality type is one that follows adventure, that follows passion, that really authenticity is really important for us. And so I've just been trying to live an authentic life and a life with meaning and a life with connection. My mom passed away when she was 42. And as I got older, the more I realized that's really young. I don't want to die with, not having, not so much accomplished something, but lived fully. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't about the degrees behind my name. My grandmother used to always say, "This is my daughter. She has her master's in social work." And I'm like, so do a million other people. I'm just, like that. She was very proud of that. And I was happy to make her proud, but that wasn't something I didn't care that I have a master's in social work.
Mm-hmm.
I just was, I just fell in love with social work. And so getting a master's after I got my bachelor's was the next step. Do you know what I mean? So I thought I was going to be this international social worker and like work with the UN and, just help programs around the world and help people around the world just, better their lives and do really important things. And I thought, so New York is an international hub. So that's a great place to start for school. And it's a great place to start my first job. And then, Jamaica, I wasn't born and raised in Jamaica, but my mom was. And so, to go back, that's kind of my first step into the international waters because it's kind of international for me. Plus grandma's there, so I don't have rent. And I'll do Jamaica for a year or two, and then I'll do something else. Ended up in Jamaica for 15 years. And, so I was just trying to, follow the passion. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, the reason why I started Rich Social Worker was because I had followed the passion, but it had not been kind to me in the monetary sense. So back to your quote about following the passion and the provision will come, I do think there is some strategy that has to happen. So not to say that, I agree, God is not mad at the paper. He wants you to get yours and help a lot of people too. That's the premise behind Rich Social Worker. But I also, especially being in the social work arena, I see how you can follow your passion for 20, 30, 50 years and be impoverished. And I don't believe God wants that either. Right. So there is some strategy, there is some, education that has to go with that. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's great as well. So I've been talking a lot, but
no, it's good. I mean, it falls in line with, and that's why I said at the beginning, I'm on this journey because at the beginning of the journey, I read a book by Shay Bynes called Graceovergrind. Mm-hmm. And it's like, grace will get you where grinding can't.
That's true.
And, and I was just like, I'm grind. I get up 3:00 in the morning. I go to bed at, 12 midnight. And, I keep grinding. And, it's going to lead to burnout because I was trying to get mine. Like you're going to work hard and get it. Right. And God's grace will get you where grinding can't because He could just open up a door, blow on it, and it's like, boom. Absolutely. And so, unfortunately, my pendulum went from one end to the other. And then I got lazy and it was just like, well, I'm going to just sit here, I do a little something and God's going to throw some grace on me and it's just going to blow up. So to your point, strategy is needed. There's a balance that you have to still work. And I'm just like, all right, God, where's the grace? Somebody going to ring my bell and go, hey, heard about you. I want what you do. And it's like, no, not if you don't get out there and promote. Not if you don't get out there and start helping people. If you don't do this, if you don't do that. And so there is strategy. But to your point, and it's rare, you make it sound like, and it might be your personality where it's like, the master's, I just wanted to do this. But some people's like, no, I'm going for the master's. Okay, I'll do that. But I'm getting a master's in something. And the purpose is secondary. It's I need this. I need the accolades. I need when people see me, they know, he's done that. There's music producers like, I only want to work with labels. I only want to work with, high performing labels. But you got this great singer right here. She's not connected. I don't want to work with her. And so you're following the accolades instead of the purpose. So I really admire what you've done with your life. And even though you're strategizing or putting it together where, I should say planning for how the paper's going to come. Yeah. You're still following your purpose.
I believe so. I believe so. Back to my mom passing so young, that really informs how I make decisions about what I want my life and legacy to look like. And so I believe I'm following the passion God has put in my heart, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Well, when did you know that was a passion?
from the pain, from the pain of not having. So you and I were talking a little before this, and I was
Mm-hmm.
telling you that. So people wouldn't know that we attended the same church
Yes,
in
Kingsborough.
Brooklyn years ago. And so when I left you, I didn't have a child, but I have a child now who is 20. She's just turned 28. My goodness. So I have an adopted daughter, and that's what I was telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And I adopted her when I was in Jamaica. And so, part of what happened with me was, Jamaica is a developing country, third world developing country. And when I moved, I started making a Jamaican salary, which is, I think it's the equivalent at the time was maybe like 18,000 US dollars, 18,000 a year, something like that, right? It wasn't a lot of money.
Right.
And I still had, the saving grace for me was I didn't have rent because I'm at my family's home, my grandmother's home. And we had tenants at the time. And, I just kind of fit myself in, like I don't need a lot of things. So, I took cold showers for the first couple years, I think, because there was no hot water. You know what I mean? And but that because I was in Jamaica, Mandeville, Jamaica. Not that people don't have hot showers. My grandmother's house didn't have it. And I didn't have internet for like the first year. And so I did without. And then a hurricane came, took off the roof of one of my houses. And there's 2 houses on the property, took off the roof of my little house. And I got a bank loan, which was the equivalent of 10,000 US dollars. And I thought I was being smart by taking that loan, the majority of it, and putting it in an investment that was supposed to give you back, a percentage of your money every month. And, and I lost all that money, and I still had the bank loan to pay back. And I still had a car that wasn't, that needed repair. And I still had termites in the house, and I still had tenants that weren't paying on time. And I still had this bill and that bill. And it just became really overwhelming and depressing. And I was like, I got to do something. I'm not supposed to be living like this. So this is where I reflected. I'm like, I have not just a master's, I have an Ivy League degree. I'm not supposed to be like, I have, I know I'm supposed to be doing better than this. Like, this can't be. Plus, the mantra of social work is helping others. And it was very painful not to be able to help others because I couldn't even help myself. So it was, you asked me, how did I know? It was because of the pain. Like, I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to get out of this situation. And so one of the things that I did was I just started reading. I reasoned and I said, there are people who don't have my level of education and don't have the family support, don't have the love, and don't have the opportunities that I have. And yet they're doing well. There's a gap in my understanding. I need to fill that gap. So I started reading. One of the first books I picked up was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I picked up Think and Grow Rich. I picked up The Science of Getting Rich. I picked up, and some people may have heard of The Secret. And if you're a Christian, that might be controversial, but I have to say that perspective, having the perspective, it read to me like a 2000 version of kind of like the Bible. Like, we are connected to a source that's greater than us. This is what I got from it. We're connected to a source that's greater than us. And when you align with the will of that source, you can call on the power of that source in your life. And so for me, it was kind of an awakening of, oh, wait a minute. I am a child of God. Like, I have, the opportunity. So to your point, Terrence, it became, this is how the grace came in. Then it was like, it's about recognizing the grace, not sitting back so much and waiting for the grace to take over, but recognizing the grace and kind of claiming that grace as I'm working in purpose and in faith. And the books that I was reading, so like I heard about, like I mentioned, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that just opened my perspective in layman's terms about how money works, how to create money. That's how I created my first product, which was that book, How Not to Practice Social Work. And again, having worked at the university, teaching in social work and organizing that program and supervising students and collaborating with different organizations and agencies that would take our students, I really got an education on, where the gaps were, not only in the systems, but with the students and in practice. So How Not to Practice Social Work is really about, hey, look at yourself. What's going on for you? And then how are you showing up in these spaces? And so while like that wanted to come out of me, but I made it into a product, and it was kind of an experiment to see, can this money thing work? And so while I felt like God had given me, or it was just part of me, right? My voice wanted to come out on paper. And so I let it, and I would type in the spirit, meaning that if I'm just looking at the computer, I can type without looking at the keyboard, right? So if I'm looking at the computer and trying to think about typing what I wanted to say, it wasn't working. So I would close my eyes and just feel connected to God and just talk, online and on the computer, I should say. And it turned into a book, and self-published it on Amazon. And it ended up being used by universities. Like people would call me and say, hey, we want to use this in our syllabus. Can you authorize this? Can you authorize that? And nice. That's the grace, right? That's the grace. Right.
Yep.
So I was driven by, so here's a little, there's strategy, because I'm listening to, and I'm understanding how people create wealth. They create assets, right? So I know that there's this thing God has given me, in terms of this book. So I'm putting it out there, turning it into an asset. That's the strategy. And the grace is that people are hearing this and finding this and sharing this, right? So it's not one thing or the other. Right. It's all the things.
Yes. And that's where, the pendulum, like, I'm sitting there going, this grace over grind thing don't work. And then it just, and I think that's where, and God is so awesome. He's leading me. So now after the grace over grind, then he hits me with the Michael Todd, and I didn't even knew who Michael Todd was. It was a friend that was like, hey, check out this sermon. It was on being anchored to God. And then it was just like, I like this guy's delivery. What else he got? And then he did this, and I'm just like, okay. And it just added more meat to what the concept that I already had. And so it's just like, all right, we need to work. We just need to make sure that work is not the priority. And one of the things he said, God's got no problem, again, with the paper. He just wants priority. He's got to be the priority. Once paper becomes the priority, or the accolades, or whatever, fill in the blank, anything that becomes the priority over God technically becomes an idol. And then that's where he has a problem. And so it was real interesting. It was real interesting. Now, I want to ask you, out of your journey, I didn't want to say all the things that you've done, but out of your journey, what is one of your most memorable success stories?
You asked me this earlier. You shared it with me earlier that you might ask. And I was thinking about that. And I have to say, it's a little challenging to say, because I'm proud of a few things, but the thing that I appreciate is what I'm most proud about, I guess, is what I've created. So with Rich Social Worker, I have a channel on YouTube, and for years, I wanted to do something and share something. And I have a really good friend, actually, he helped me start the channel with some videos, but people have been asking me to show up. And I was I was really insecure that I wouldn't be able to show up consistently, because I don't know myself, or I didn't know myself to always follow through. And that scared me, and it kept me from doing a channel for a while. So I'm most proud that I have a channel, and then I followed through. And in fact, right before this call, I had a discovery call with someone who said what so many people have told me, in that my content helps them so much. They've grown so much. They are, they're looking at things in a different perspective because of my content. They started a business, or they left a job, or started, or changed course or something. That makes me so proud. I'm humbled. That's just, to me, that's the best.
And that's exactly what the question was geared towards. I mean, because I in past word for in the podcast, I asked, what was your most memorable success story? And one of the guests was just like, my family, like the way I can be with my family. Some people like, oh, it's my master's degree. I've never had somebody come over, and say it's my degree, or it's when I got this job, or because from the outside looking in, you would think, oh, it's when I performed with one of the guests at Carnegie Hall, and I'm like, I thought Carnegie Hall would have been your answer. He was like, no, it was when I did this one, and it was the fact that I almost couldn't do it, and I had to trust God to get it done. So
nice.
I think it's really interesting when you hear people like what the most success story or what they're most proud of. It's like, wow, I would have thought you picked the big shiny thing, but it's like, no, this is the one that really means something to me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what I want people to understand, that, we go through life and, especially in the age that we're in, the whole social media, and you're always putting your best face out there, and I did this, I'm in the studio here, click, and but it's like, when I connect with my son, that's it.
Yeah.
And so that was I don't want to say it was a perfect answer, but it's a real answer. There is no perfect answer to that question.
I thought you were going to say it was a trick question.
No. It's not. Yeah. It's a question for authenticity, which you fell right into. So it worked. Look at that.
I passed the test that wasn't there.
Exactly. There you go. One of my other questions was, what is one of the most important things you learned from being a social worker?
What I like about social work, and I said this at the beginning of the book, is it forces you or teaches you how to be a better you. Like, the whole premise of the profession is well-being. And there's so many things that contribute to well-being, but it's really difficult to do the work well without being well yourself. And so that's what I really appreciate about the profession and the knowledge. I don't work in traditional social work. I'm really more now in leadership and in, development and in mentorship. I did an interview with someone last month, and she said she thinks social work everybody who's a social worker has about a 20-year run. After about 20 years, that's when you burn out. That's when you're over it. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, maybe that's probably about right. Then it's time to leverage your skills and maybe do something else, around that time. And I've been in social work maybe about 25 years now, something like that. But I've been in leadership more than half of that time. And so leadership is really my passion. And Rich Social Worker is the avenue that I use to help other social workers leverage their skills, generally outside of social work. It could be inside of social work too, but traditional social work trains social workers to work a lot of times in clinical settings with individuals who have challenging problems. But that's not all social work is. Social work on a macro and an international level, looks at policies. It looks at programs that can help communities. You know what I mean? It looks at corporate responsibility and things like that. So I like now being the person that helps social workers to perform at their best. That's where I really thrive, because I get all that other stuff on the micro level, but I just love helping social workers be the best versions of themselves.
No, because I always thought, I always saw social workers as, man, that's a tough job. That wouldn't want that. It's just because all day long you're just seeing problems, one problem after the next problem, and you're trying to help here and you're trying to help it. From somebody who doesn't know about social work, just outside looking in, it's like you're dealing with this family that's going through this crisis. You're dealing with this situation where there's not enough money, and then you're trying to get money from here to get it to this one, and that's not working out. And then there's a court situation, and this one didn't listen and had a relapse. It's just like, oh man. And then you go home and it's just like, I can't. And then beep beep. Oh, gotta go tomorrow. And it's just like, oh man. So
not every social work job or role is like that. And while there's no shortage of problems, we focus on what we call a solution focused approach. So we see opportunities for solutions.
No,
if you're doing it right, you know what I mean? So and that's part of the way to stay balanced, not just as a social worker, but as a person dealing with challenges, dealing with life. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of, oh, this is a problem, look at it from a perspective of, okay, there's an opportunity for a solution here. And I actually had to learn how to think that way. If it's not a natural way for you to think, or if you haven't practiced thinking that way, you can get to that point. And so my communication changes, or has changed, right? So whereas maybe before I could go into a conversation with someone who was complaining about things, now it's like, that's not my default. My default is not to complain. My default is to say, okay, well, let's look at what are the options, what are the opportunities, how can this be changed? Who do we know? What resources do we have? That's how that works.
No, and I appreciate you saying that, because one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on as a guest is because, from my view, I always looked at social workers as that's their job. But in a sense, like you said, in life, we all play the role of a social worker in some facet, either to our families, to a friend, to somebody going through something, not the full social worker thing, but
I got you.
Yeah, and so to hear from you, someone who now is mentoring social workers or is a leader there, it kind of gives those life lessons where it's like, you know what, I could use that for my own life when I'm going through problems, or when my sister calls me up and it's just like, I'm going through this again. It's just like, all right, oh man, well, you know what I went through, but it's like, no, what's the solution? How are we gonna work this out? Or it's just a different frame of mind.
Yeah. So the book How Not to Practice Social Work, right? I have had several people who aren't social workers read it and tell me that they don't like the title because it was so applicable to them, that they want me to change the title to not make it say for social workers. They want me to make it for just the everyday person. And I have a friend who's a social worker who says social work is, when you get a degree in social work, you get a degree in common sense. I don't agree that you're getting a degree in common sense, but I do believe that you get a degree in humanity and, how to be a better human. And so while I wouldn't say everyone is a social worker, because there's a lot of ownership around that title of social work.
Okay.
People
All right.
I paid a lot of money to be called a social worker. Don't get me calling yourself a social worker. No, sir. But I get it, right? But
right, I'll back up.
Anybody
that's that took it a little offensive, I did not mean to step on your profession.
Somebody might watch this, and if I didn't say that, they might be like, Eva, you didn't defend your title. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I absolutely believe that, you get a degree in being a great human, like how to be a great human. We study, social work is like a combination of, we study psychology, we study sociology, we study anthropology, history, economics. Like, we pride ourselves in having of what we call a multifaceted approach and perspective, so that we are looking at things from different perspectives and then using those different perspectives to hopefully make the best decisions that impact people. Because at the heart of our existence is us. Mm-hmm. So, we want us to function well. So, it's a profession I'm really proud about. But I have to say, if I needed to redo my life from college, I would probably do 2 degrees. I probably would do social work and business. And because, the social work profession by and large is not focused on money. It does not teach, it will teach social welfare, but it doesn't necessarily teach financial wellness, which you need to have financial wellness in order to make really big impacts. You know what I mean? And, social workers oftentimes are limited and handicapped because of financial limitations and because of challenges in programming that then impact us as individuals, right? Whereas you have other companies and organizations and people who are really well off and financially capable doing the work that social workers would otherwise be doing, but they don't have the money. Do you know what I mean? So that's the whole point of Rich Social Worker. It's like, listen, we got the training, which is great, but let's also not be afraid to look at the money. Let's pay attention to the money. Let's get some business skills in here. Let's get some strategy in here. Let's get some entrepreneurs on board. You know what I mean? So, and this is what I mean when I talk about leveraging and monetizing your skills and your abilities. There's no shortage of problems and there's no shortage of money. But if you don't have that understanding of how to create wealth or how to manage money or how to, put these things together, then there's always going to be that disparity. So that's the goal of Rich Social Worker. Nice.
So let me ask this. What's next for Eva Forde?
Well, I mean, it's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
which is Rich Social Worker. So my intention is to be a millionaire at the very least. And not to be a millionaire for the money. Again, this is my goal. My vision is to, I want other social workers to see that as possible and to see all of the things that you can do when you have more money. And on my channel, I intentionally interview people who I consider to be either wealthy themselves, and are living aligned lives with that wealth. So, the qualification is not just you have money, but you have money and you're living in a way that honors others, honors yourself, and allows you to make bigger impact, right? So I talk to people who either are actually living that way or who are on the path and what they're doing, right? Who have what I call a rich social work mindset. And so I want to make big money, and I want to showcase all of the things and all of the ways that social workers, and not just social workers, but people in general, when you have a mission, when you have a story, when you have a purpose, how you can monetize that and help even more people, right? So, and for those who might be listening saying, oh, she's all about the money. okay, if that's what you hear me saying, fine. That's not what I mean. What I mean is I'm all about the mission, and the money is
Going to make the mission go further.
It's going to make the mission, right, confirmed. And it's going to be kind of the thing that a lot of people need to see in order to, validate that their dreams and goals and aspirations are possible as well.
No, I don't know anybody that's going to, well, there'll probably be somebody that hears it wrong.
I don't know.
Whatever,
Whatever.
I heard it right.
Whatever. Thank you. Go check out Rich Social Worker. That's what I say. Just check out the channel, Rich Social Worker on YouTube. And
I'm going to leave a link there. I was just going to ask, what's the best way people can support and follow what you're doing?
I'm very accessible. They can check out the channel on YouTube. They can check out the website. They can connect with me for a free 15-minute call. And I actually have to say, not all of my clients are social workers. So I actually provide coaching to people who want to leverage their skills in online business. And not all of my clients are social workers. I happen to be a social worker. My audience largely is social workers, but not everybody is. So if anything in this conversation resonated with anyone, feel free, reach out. I've got a free consultation. I talk to any and everyone because I love it and I love sharing knowledge and if I can help people move forward, that's what I'm here for. So I'm on Instagram as well. And Facebook. I need to do better with Facebook, but one platform at a time. I'm just getting over my trepidation of Instagram, and then I'll get back to Facebook and show.
All right, I'll make sure I put all the links there. Send me all the links, and I'll put them all in the description.
Will do.
Now, any final thoughts or words of advice you want to?
Yeah, I mean, because I think anyone who's listening, right, your audience. Are people who
listen and watch.
But tell me, in terms of where are they? Like, what's their
demographic?
What's their what's their game? What are they about? Are they?
My audience largely is about people that are looking to be better. Better tomorrow than they were yesterday. So the company is Be More Today.
Right.
We do a Words for Life. This is, Words for Life podcast. We have a Be More Today show also. Right. And that's about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But it's people that are here and they're looking to move forward, of course, in a I was going to say a legal manner, but it's more than just legal.
Efficacious. Yes. So they're growers, they're learners, they're about bettering themselves, which is, listen, you cannot go wrong if you're on that path, if you're on that journey of bettering yourself. You cannot go wrong. I have to say though, when I started my journey of Rich Social Worker and of business, right? I was doing all the things. So I was like watching the Tony Robbins, and like I said,
I was doing that too.
Anything personal development, the Les Browns, the Jim Rohns, the Success Magazine. Like I was doing all of that stuff, but I was also learning about money. And so I wasn't sure for years. I wasn't sure who my audience was. I wasn't sure who I was talking to because I was like am I personal development and am I money management? I don't have any money. So am I money, I'm learning about online. Am I teaching people online? Like I didn't know where I was. So what I would say with the personal development, it's great, but you can't stay just in learning mode. You've also got to do, right? Yes. And you do by surrounding yourself with people that are doers, I think, putting yourself in environments, but you've got to be in action. You've got to put yourself out there. Gone are the days where, if you're looking for a job, you just put out your resume and hope that somebody, hires you. People are looking at you online and they're looking at, okay, what are you already doing and how can what you're already doing contribute to what I'm doing or contribute to my company or my mission or my, thing. So, I get invited to speak places, not because I've sent out an invitation, but because people find what I'm already doing on YouTube. I didn't ask anybody for permission to do that. I didn't ask anybody for permission to write a book. I didn't ask anybody for permission to start an Instagram account. You know what I mean? So the only thing I would say is you don't need to ask anybody permission to do anything. Just start something, even if you're not clear on what it is. In fact, when you and I started this conversation off camera, you said you sent me something about, Eva's the founder of Positive Solutions International. Yeah, that was 12, 13 years ago. That was a thing that I started when I didn't know what I was doing. And that's fine. Like, you have to start somewhere. Yeah, so that's not the thing now, but I started. And so, if you're just stuck in self-development mode, it's going to be, you're going to feel on fire until that personal development tape runs out. And then you're like, oh, shoot, now what? Right. So you have to be in action. You have to be in motion, doing something, putting something out somewhere for people to see and connect with.
Great advice. Love it. Love it. Love it. I really thank you. I thank you for your authenticity. I love it.
You're welcome. You're gonna get it. I can't help that.
Yes. Now, before you go, again, I'm gonna tell you about Be More Today. Dr. Sean and I were focused, again, like I said, on helping ordinary people do extraordinary things. The belief or the mantra is that if you can stay physically and spiritually fit, everything else kind of seems to fall in place. I mean, you still got to do some work, but everything else seems to fall in place. Physically fit and spiritually fit. So that's kind of what Be More Today is all about. You can check us out at bemoretoday.com. It's bemoretoday.com. We've got free workouts on YouTube. I've got Words for Life tracks. When you go to the website, you'll see all of that. We've got Be More Today apparel. As a matter of fact, I just put a new version of a Words for Life t-shirt up there. So that's cool. Or if you just want to join the Be More Today community, we're a community of people, again, looking to be better than we were yesterday. Better today than we were yesterday. Again, I like to end with a Words for Life track, so stay tuned. That's going to play after this. And I thank you for joining us. And that's all. We're out.
You are a divine creation with a heroic mission. You are not you're not a package of protoplasm. You're not an accidental biological mistake. You are intended by a creator who wanted somebody just like you to exist in time right now. You could have been born 40 years ago or 40 years in the future, but God wanted to drop you in time right now. Your gifts, your abilities, your talents, your look, your disposition, your personality, your ups, your downs, your idiosyncrasies, your habits, your problems. God wanted somebody just like you. You don't look like you look by accident. You look like you look because it's directly related to your function. So stop tripping on how you look. You are not a mistake. So I wish I had more hair. I wish my nose was thin. No. You are not a biological freak. You are intended by God. Now, I don't know about y'all. Believe me, I am not conceited nor cocky, but I am confident. Amen. And I'm going to tell you like it is. Isaiah 43 says, I was created to bring glory to God. That's the Bible. He created me for him, not for myself. Therefore, God does not make junk. If that's true, then I need to celebrate. When I look in the mirror, I just say, go Jesus, you created all over yourself, Jesus. You're mighty good. I don't know about y'all. Y'all keep tripping if y'all want to, but I am a divine creation for a heroic mission. I look like I look because I had to do what I do. God needed a short, handsome, bald-headed man. In other words, I was born in 1959. God knew way back in eternity when I was going to be born and what I was going to do once I show up. Therefore, God becomes responsible to put in me what I need to have to do what he's going to ask me to do. I'm about to go somewhere. In other words, see, what my responsibility, what will be my mission? I don't know yet. God knows, and therefore, God has to pre-pack me. Max Lucado, however you want to say it, in his book, Cure for the Common Life, wonderful book, He says when you get ready to go on a vacation, depending on where you're going, determines how you're going to pack your suitcase. Y'all going to shout in a minute. I promise you. See, knowing the outcome, knowing your destiny, knowing your destination, knowing that you might be going to Florida, knowing you might be going to Canada, knowing the season and knowing the climatic temperature where you got to show up depends on what you're going to put in your suitcase. Before you get there, you anticipate being there. Therefore, you got to start pre-packing your suitcase. All I'm trying to say way back in the glory, God, the God of the universe, before you ever showed up, when you were being created, he was pre-packing you. He was putting stuff in you that he knew you would need way before you would ever show up. Y'all ain't feeling me yet. He knew the wife you would need to marry. He knew the husband you would need. I can't take credit for this. All I can say is give God the glory, because God pre-packed you the same way. If you stop tripping and get out of your way and let God bless you, you sabotaging your own destiny, not understanding your mission or your responsibility. I had one question on this side of glory to ask God. I would just simply say, God, what is it that you want me to do with my life? Period. And I would spend every ounce of energy that I have to do it until it killed me.